Amati Cifuentes and Jimmy Dunne's QPR suffered their second straight defeat on Saturday afternoon after Alfie Lloyd's third-minute equaliser, itself a response to Aaron Connolly's 29-second opener, was made redundant by Luke Cundle's 25th minute winner on his Millwall debut. Rangers were denied multiple chances for a leveller after 70 minutes, but it was ultimately two big defensive errors from a disrupted Ars backline that kept them out of the points. I'm Connor, aka Hoopsa. I make QPR previews, reactions, interviews and features, so let's talk through Rangers' performance at the Den and look ahead to our next fixture in W12 against Blackburn Rovers on Tuesday night. Ahead of play, Saturday's London derby felt very much secondary to the bigger news of Jimmy Dunne's potentially imminent departure for Sheffield United, with press reporting that QPR had turned down a bid from the Blades on Friday evening. Progress on that would go radio silent until the starting lineup dropped at 2 PM, revealing that despite a flu-ridden Cifuentes suggesting Dunne would probably be in the matchday squad during his pre-match conference, he was, as expected, entirely absent. With Xavi Khan taking over from the gaffer for the day, that meant two changes, with Steve Cook returning to the starting lineup for the first time since Preston at home, meaning Edwards was shifted across to right back, and Lloyd getting a surprise first league start since Luton away back in August in place of Frey. On the bench for the first time meanwhile was new loan signing Yang Min Hyuk, following his signing on Wednesday evening. Now I spoke at length in my preview about how important Dunne is to this team. He's our biggest presence in both boxes, our second top scorer, the focal point of all set pieces, the winner of every ball in the air, and the outball from defence. And that meant that in this match, our first without him in the league all season, we played exactly like a team missing its most important player. We looked disjointed and panicked the second the game kicked off, and that's why it took just 29 seconds for us to concede. Millwall got the game going with a long punt up to our box. Neither Nardi nor Fox knew who was supposed to be mopping it up, and the home side already had a throw in outside our box with less than 15 seconds on the clock. They worked the ball around us quickly, a sharp 1-2 allowing consistently free centre-back Tristan Kramer, deployed at right back in all of his 4 appearances for his new club since signing earlier this month, to squeeze through a cluster of Powell, Field and Varane with ease. Fox let Ivanovic swing and miss at the inward ball for free, but it worked a treat because it pulled Edwards out of shape too, allowing another January arrival in Aaron Connolly to slot the ball into the bottom right corner as Nardi dived the wrong way. Thankfully, there wasn't very long to dwell on the mess that had just unravelled before our eyes, because QPR found an instant reply with Edwards working the ball out to a deep dropping Smith, who span inwards of Byron and charged inside, waiting for the perfect moment to release the ball to Morgan, who had snuck out smartly to the right. Kieran then released a perfectly weighted ball onto a perfectly timed Lloyd run between the centre-backs, who, drifting into a tight space on the right and holding off one of the league's best defenders in Tanganga, blasted the ball brilliantly past Jensen and into the far side netting. It was a great overall move and one of the first times in forever I can remember us scoring from back to front. Frustrating then that we barely ever tried to repeat that kind of passage for the remainder of the match, Lloyd getting very few balls after that to run onto, clearly what he was selected for to try and pin back a very high Millwall press, and then getting thrown about by the Lions on practically every involvement after his goal, very much to the disinterest of the referee. The chaos did not let up, Steve Cook playing an uncharacteristically dangerous ball out to the edge of the box. From a Kramer cross on 6 minutes, the Rangers refused to put a name on, allowing Bangira Williams a shot that rattled the right hand post. Cook really did not look himself at all, understandable after 6 weeks out of the side and thrust in here for a start when so many other returning players have been phased in gradually. Things might have been different had Edwards and Fox been kept as centre backs, but Ashby is clearly not trusted for a full 90 minutes, more on that one later. In truth though, the whole backline was off here, and that includes Nardi. We actually started to get our footing over the next 10 minutes, Smith having his shot blocked outside the box and a deflected rocket from Edwards creeping just over the crossbar. But with Powell continually allowing Millwall space on our left, they only needed one more attack to seal the win on 23 minutes. This one was a complete mess, with Kenny naively pressing Tanganga outside the box, leaving Kramer completely free once again to cross. None of Edwards, Cook nor Morgan were able to prevent Saville from rising to the delivery. Nardi had no clue that the resulting header was just about to hit his crossbar, and Fox just stood and watched as Luke Cundle passed him by and headed in the rebound. This was an entirely preventable goal made possible by passive defending, very reminiscent of that from our horror run back at the start of the season. And look, I've made the point multiple times about the disruption that Dunne's absence caused, but he's a makeshift right back who's found a year of form late in his Rangers career, not prime Cafu as much as we've liked to joke. You've got two experienced defenders there that should be stepping up to the plate, and a left back with at least 6 appearances against Millwall, who all know what to expect here. Rangers would go on to have a lot of the ball for the rest of the half, albeit with very little to show for it. That remained the case in the second half until 64 minutes when Rangers finally made their first changes, and I wish they'd been made 10 minutes earlier or even at half time because we started to improve. Saito was the first switch for Morgan, a bit harsh on the latter I thought, but with his age and how many minutes he's played already this season, that will have to happen on occasion. It meant that Chair, still very much struggling to show his true self here, shifted into the 10, while Koki got another run out on his natural left-hand side and instantly showed why he must start on Tuesday night, nutmegging his way through the right-hand side of Millwall's defence and picking out Lloyd with a cross, with his header missing narrowly to the right. From this point onwards, despite the attempts of Ashby, our other sub for Cook, who once again picked all the wrong choices at any given opportunity, eventually leading to Edwards, now back at centre-back, cutting him out from the build-up, it was almost entirely Rangers. Fox went even closer on 72 minutes with a strong header from one of few good power crosses that didn't hit the first man, that Jensen did very well to save. Our next changes on 76 minutes improved us even further, with Frey replacing Smith and Yang Min Hyuk making his R's debut in place of Chair. The latter announced himself quickly and will have rapidly dispelled any scepticism about his lone arrival, pickpocketing the ball from Ivanovic by the sideline, bursting inside for a quick 1-2 with Alfie before unleashing a powerful shot from out wide that Jensen had to tip out for a corner. 18 years old, playing in England for the first time against Millwall of all teams, Yang did not at all look out of place or overwhelmed by the occasion. The efforts kept coming, Saito once again dancing past Kramer on 81 minutes and cutting it back for a first time shot from field that could have found its way in despite it bouncing through a mess of players, but it did eventually hit Frey, who would go on to have his header blocked seconds later. Lloyd was the final player to be replaced on 83 minutes for Colley, but it was a quiet appearance for the 19-year-old. Rangers kept on pushing until the final whistle, but their final chance at a leveller at the death was squandered by Field, who ambitiously shot over the bar with his back to goal outside the box. Talk about read the room. So, a disappointing one, but given the circumstances of these two unexpected absences, not entirely unexpected. I do feel if we'd made a few of those changes earlier, we might have got something from this one, but with that said, it did feel a little bit like Argyle at home in that we ended up throwing everything at it and we still just couldn't find that second goal. I also think that just like Wednesday the weekend before, while not anything particularly spectacular, Millwall were regimented, they pressed hard in the first half, and that was enough to get them the win. So it does seem after a good run, we're now having a bit of difficulty playing against the more physical sides in this division. I did notice some formation stuff that didn't seem to help very much either. Powell tucking inside, leaving Millwall free to run down our right. Field playing further ahead than Varane, which I preferably like the other way round, and Morgan being pushed out to the right, which we seem to do quite a bit away from home lately, and it did work effectively for our goal, but it does seem to limit him from covering quite so much ground, which is clearly what he excels at. I think there is a good case for most of those subs coming in for a start on Tuesday night. Chair, having had no preseason and 2 injuries already, is struggling to impact games and desperately needs a rest. And Saito very much deserves a start. And with a flash of instant brilliance, I'd even make a case for Yang on the opposite side. The biggest question, of course, is going to be what to do at right back. Edwards was a logical suggestion before kickoff as a comfortable ball-playing centre-back, and he may have excelled more in that role had the rest of the backline been more organised, but we improved once he returned to centre-back, and Ashby showed in just 20 minutes why he can't be relied on for a start. If that's the position we find ourselves in for the rest of the season, it will look very, very different. I was of course hoping this question would be closer to being answered as I record this on deadline day, but Sunday brought no news on Dunne's potential transfer, and so far this morning it's been reported that Rangers are willing to sell today should they find a replacement in time. Hopefully by the time you hear this, this one is closer to being resolved one way or other, because otherwise we head into a second fixture with this looming over us and threatening to further disrupt our momentum. Let's focus now on Tuesday night's opposition at home, 5th place Blackburn Rovers, who head to Loftus Road following a 2-1 home win over Preston North End on Friday night. John Eustace has fashioned Rovers into one of this season's surprise packages, having kept them out of danger with a 19th place finish last season. They started the season strong with 4 wins and 3 draws giving them an early playoff shout, and after weathering 5 losses from the next 7, would go on to win 6 on the trot between early November to mid-December. Since then, with injuries racking up, they've been in a bit of a funk. Friday night's victory was just their second in 10, 6 of which have been losses, but they do remain in the playoff conversation. This month's window has seen ex-Rangers assistant Eustace reunite with Dion Sanderson for a third time on loan from his former side Birmingham, while Sierra Leone forward Augustus Cargo has joined from Cesena. Rovers tend to fare much better at home than on the road, with 9 of their 13 victories at Ewood Park this campaign, and no victories in 4 away from home since a narrow 1-0 at Hillsborough on the 10th of December. Eustace will of course have one eye on Sunday's 4th round tie with Wolves after dispatching Borough in the 3rd round earlier this month, though Coventry this time last season will come as a warning of the implications of going on both an FA Cup and playoff run at the same time. In terms of shape, Rovers favour a 4-2-3-1. Andreas Weimann leads the scoring with 6 goals from 22 appearances, just ahead of Yuki Ihashi on 5, while Maktar Gehi has 3 and the side's most assists with 6. Overall, Rovers have scored the least goals of the top 6, while their defence is the 5th best in the league with 11 clean sheets, so expect yet another big and physical backline, though interestingly, only 1 of those clean sheets has come in the past 10 games. I think with it looking like the Dunne saga isn't due to be wrapped up one way or other until late on Monday night, preparation for this one once again will have been disrupted, and I think that's going to take its toll. But if we make the right changes in attack, I think we will go for this one. For that reason, I'm going for a 2-1 win to lift the spirits and get us back on track. Thank you so much for tuning in for this joint match reaction and match preview. If you're new to Hoopsa and you've enjoyed this one, please consider liking, subscribing, following and leaving a rating on the platform of your choice. And hopefully I'll see you next time for my match reaction. Come on, you Rs.